Hello everybody, welcome to Daily Coaching. Daily Coaching are currently hosting a number of online discussions around various topics within the football industry. And today's discussion is going to be all around one-to-one coaching. I'm really excited to announce our guest that we have with us speaking on this discussion today is Mo Ali of Moalifc. And what we're going to be doing is just talking briefly about Mo's background and his experiences, bringing us up to date, and then kind of looking at his role within sort of the one-to-one coaching football industry as it is. So Mo, thank you very much for joining us today. And if you won't mind, just kind of briefly explain your experiences, your background, kind of bringing us to where we are today.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to see you. And a bit about me, I grew up playing since I was 2. Ever since I was a kid, just played. And then I actually played pro in Canada and Slovakia in the Premier League. And after I had a few injuries, went back to Boston, USA. And I think that's when I started doing some videos and just fun shots, you know, skills, just messing around. And then eventually, player by player, we started training different players in the MLS. And it slowly started growing the brand. So, and then eventually we started traveling different countries, different leagues, working with different players, with different sponsors. So I think it's grown a lot. I always wanted to play, but I think this is a good job also to stay around the game.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's one of those cliche things, isn't it, where sort of, you know, people who kind of have a coaching career really have that previous experience of playing and then kind of almost fall in automatically to that coaching kind of role in that coaching industry. So would you kind of say then that sort of one-to-one of the coaching of players kind of came around from your connections that you had within the sort of football industry playing yourself, or was it through sort of mutual connections that you kind of formed those relationships?
Yeah, through mutual connections. And I mean, now with social media, you can get access to anyone, you know, so you can message players. And if you have something they like or something new, then they want to try it also, you know, because they're always doing their own trainings with the team, not always the technical, creative stuff. So I think it's good to mix it up sometimes. And I think that's why the players enjoy it. And it was just a new idea back then, you know, like 3-4 years ago. There wasn't too many people going around doing one-on-one coaching with pro clubs. So I think being one of the first to do it is like why it became so big, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, like just, you know, from your content and what I see from it, like I said, you said it is so creative. And I think, you know, you see a lot of football training videos or content online. And it's good content out there, and it's obviously specific to football. But I think what kind of makes your content so different and sort of leading within the field is that creativity with it. And I think, you know, like you said, especially from a kind of social media aspect, you know, these players obviously are all on social media in this day and age, and they look at it and they can probably think, well, I want something slightly different. Because they're getting training within their club, and, you know, especially over, say, for example, within England, we have, you know, PTs, personal trainers who, you know, potentially train players within line with their club's development plans and personal plans. But there's nothing like the content that you put out and the specific one-to-one football element where, you know, the content is so different, but also yet so creative and specific to football. How do you kind of feel that the players react when you obviously, so say, for example, there's a lot of people who might be listening or watching this, and, you know, they might actually try and message players to say, look, would you be interested in doing this sort of thing? How's the players' sort of responses to that, and also what's the club's kind of reaction to getting their players having one-to-one coaching outside of their own stuff?
For sure. Players, they've all seen the videos now, so they want to try.
Yeah.
But I think for them it's new too, you know. And being a player, you want to be the best at everything in what you. And sometimes the players, since it's something new for them, new drills, it's hard for them also, you know. A lot of them struggle technically, even Champions League players, even some of the best players in the world, like they have problem with this stuff. So it's cool to see that they can always keep working, keep improving, and they miss a lot of times, so it motivates them to get it right, you know. And I think that's what they enjoy too, because they realized, okay, I can always be improving, and I'm not the best yet. And I think standpoint, it's different each club. Just depends. Some clubs more closed, but normally the players try and set it up. But if it's through media or something, sometimes it's more tough because it was something new at the time too, you know. So they don't know what to expect. But I think now it's a lot easier. Like other clubs see the other teams we went to, so they can have an idea what we're gonna do and not be scared.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think, like you said as well, it's that thing of, especially from a player perspective, also it's kind of, you know, what can I do to potentially make it, or if they have already make it, like you said, be the best that they can be, regardless of what level they're competing at. You know, like you said, a player is always looking to improve their sort of knowledge, understanding, technical ability. So yeah, no, totally agree with that. So how do you kind of go about planning a session, a one-to-one session? Because obviously sometimes I suppose it's sort of dictated to by the player. The player might give you obviously a specific area in their game which they're trying to improve, or potentially it could be a player-specific position. So say, for example, a goalkeeper, then you might be limited, but also kind of directed to a certain area of the game. But what's kind of your process within planning, say, for example, a one-to-one session?
Yeah, so normally the night before we would plan the session, depending on the player, like goalkeeper, winger, and mostly it's a challenge, you know. It's not necessarily like, okay, we're gonna get the most out of this session to make you the best. It's more like a challenge for them to see, because we're not gonna be training them all year. We're just at this club one day and then we're out, so it's not gonna really change his game. But I think we try and put them up to a challenge where it's something new for them, like different drills they might have not seen before that they would struggle with, just so their mind is a bit different, you know. Like an example, at Schalke, we were coaching them and they were on a 5-game losing streak. So, and we did this fun training, you know, a lot of headers. We were out there an hour or two just doing like headers, volleys. And the next game, they won 1-0. And the shortest guy, he scored a header, you know. So maybe sometimes, even though it might not be the best training, just mentally, they're having fun. Maybe their mind becomes more easy, you know. They're not always stressed. Sometimes when you're too stressed, you might not perform well.
Yeah, no, totally. I think as well, you hit the nail there with the fun element. I think, you know, so often within training, it can become repetitive. It can kind of become predictable. And I kind of know from my own coaching experience, the coaches that I work with, you know, you have to change things up. It has to become unpredictable. It has to be fun. Similar to your kind of content, it has to be creative as well, because otherwise, number one, you lose player engagement. Number two, you don't build that trust and rapport with players as well, because obviously, you know, there are, like I said, there's quite a lot of football coaches out there who say they sort of offer one-to-one coaching, but again, depending on what it looks like. So I suppose, yeah, like you said, it's that thing of they trust the content, they see it, it's fun, and similar to, like you said, the example with the Schalke as well. You know, if it has an effect on it as well, then also I suppose that's big, massive ticks on your end, because you're feeling, you know, what I've impacted that player to do something, whether it be, you know, big or minute within the game. It's had an impact. So yeah, and I totally agree with that aspect of it. And kind of leading on that, then really, what would you kind of say are the major sort of challenges or benefits with the one-to-one coaching? I mean, I suppose you kind of said before, you know, the downfall is you don't get to spend that much time with them, and it could be off potentially like a one-off session. But then I suppose you kind of lent towards there, you may have an impact, whether it be just at one aspect that you're sort of looking at or you're working on. You know, that obviously leads to massive success rates from the session outcome, really. But yeah, what would you kind of say the massive challenges or benefits really with the one-to-one stuff?
Yeah, I think a lot of repetition, you know, because sometimes when you train with your team, you might not get as many touches in the training.
Yeah,
depends on the training, like, but I think this, because it's so individual, you're gonna try something 30-40 times until you get it right. And just those extra reps, it gets you more confidence for the next day of training or the match. because you got more touches in. Even myself, some days when we were training in Slovakia, like if you're playing possession and your team's the losing team, you might not get as many touches, and then training's over and you barely touched it, you know?
Yeah.
You're doing warm-ups, sprints, all that, you're not touching the ball. So I think doing that extra stuff is definitely change your game.
Yeah, totally. And I think as well, even from a sort of social aspect as well, I mean, like you said, the repetition on the ball, the touches on the ball, the interaction with the decision making, all those aspects are crucial to that one-to-one stuff. Whereas, like you said, when it comes to a social environment, you're going to have less of that, obviously, and also depending on players' confidence. I mean, like you said, especially with the example you used of Schalke again, going back to that, if you're on a losing streak, the confidence within that team isn't going to be that high. And then kind of going into a one-to-one session, you may potentially be able to boost your confidence because, again, as you said, you're getting more touches on the ball, more repetition. So therefore it leads to potentially more success within your chosen outcome. So yeah, I think that's massive as well. And obviously your platform has had massive success. You know, is one of the leading ones potentially in the world of football coaching, if I'm being honest. How did you kind of come about with that really? So obviously there's a lot of social media going around in this day and age. There's a lot of people potentially getting success from social media, but yeah, how do you kind of go about from creating it to the day-to-day running and producing the content for it?
Yeah, for sure. So I travel with one filmer.
Yep.
So he captures everything. And when we go to a shoot, we try and get as much content, you know, like we're there 2 hours shooting with the player. So the training, do a challenge, and then take some photos, interview, like 5 pieces of content, just so we can mass distribute it. And I think just being creative is the main thing, you know. You have to think like for the next big person, like don't do what I'm doing, you know, come up with a bigger idea and do it. And I think just innovating and coming up with new stuff, you know. I think if you create something new in the football world, it's gonna do well. And just be consistent, a lot of patience. Like you won't see success in the beginning, but if you're consistent, reaching out to a lot of people, just putting in the work, it's gonna make it.
Yeah, no, totally. I think, like you said, it's putting in that effort of, you know, a lot of the time people will have ideas, but sometimes not really too sure how to implement it, or sometimes hit crossroads and think, you know, should I stop doing what I'm doing? But like you said, it's, you know, finding those innovative ways of doing things and persistence, I suppose, of carrying it through. And as well, something interesting which you mentioned there about, like you said, you have a cameraman who goes around with you. I think a lot of the time people don't see that nor appreciate it because, you know, they see a lot of the time you're doing your work and, you know, like you said, there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, if we're looking from an administrative point of view, it's say getting the cameraman, it's the getting over to these places to go and do it, it's the taking the time to actually film the content, produce the content, edit it. So yes, I think it is. It's a big load of work, but again, like you said, if you distribute it correctly and, you know, you do reap the rewards from it. And also as well, not only from a selfish perspective, but also from a playing perspective as well. You know, the players can benefit from the work that you're doing. So yeah, I think it's definitely a big move for some people, but an appropriate move for some people as well. Okay, then kind of sort of moving towards the similar to what they say with players, really, you know, if there's a player out there, what can they do to potentially make it? What would your advice be to coaches out there who are thinking to go into sort of one-to-one aspect of the game, and whether it be sort of the producing of the content aspect or just going down the route of, you know, working on a one-to-one basis? What would your advice be to them?
Advice would be don't like start too big. Start off with your local city, maybe academy players, just easy stuff you can organize near your place and get someone to film it. You know, there's a lot of young kids, college kids who would want to film for you, and maybe free, maybe you have to pay them a bit, but I think just start to create something, you know, and slowly build up from that and see how your fans respond to your fans' comments. And I think just try and be social with your community who follows you, you know, because if they're following you, it's why you're also successful. It's not just yourself, you know. People watch you for a reason, so you should also give back to them. And I think that's a few things. I don't know if it answered your question, but I think
Yeah.
that was my thing.
Yeah, no, totally. I definitely agree. I think, like you said, it's a lot of the time, well, number one, on the small community aspect of things. Like you said, there's a lot of people out there who are willing to give up time, willing to give up the effort of working together and collaboratively as well, really. I think, you know, as you mentioned earlier on, it's not just yourself, it's also you and another cameraman who goes around with you. And actually, you kind of suppose, similar to a football team, really, you're building a team. You know, you're building the person who does the content, the players, the person who does the camera work. So yeah, I definitely agree. Utilizing those sort of key people that you may have, and a lot of people listening and watching may already know within their communities, and I suppose sharing that vision of where they want to go, and, you know, like I said, working together to try and push that sort of vision, really. So yeah, no, definitely think that answers the question, and yeah, definitely good advice. And especially as well, like you said, with going forward with the putting the content together, it's, again, if these contents can have an impact on yourself, like you said, the fans, then, you know, people are going to like it, people are going to retweet it, people are going to share it. And I think that, like you said, it's building that community of not only for the people that you're affecting, but also people who may reshare it and see it, then they can potentially use those practices and use it on their own players. So yeah, I think definitely for the wider footballing community as well, it has a massive impact. So yeah, no, brilliant piece of advice. Mo, fantastic insight into what you do, who you are, the stuff that you create. If you don't mind sharing your social media platforms, because I'm sure there's a lot of people, if they haven't already come across you, will want to come across you after this. From my own perspective, I can massively say that Mo's content, like I said, very creative, very fun for the players. On our page as well, we repost quite a lot of the content that Mo does. Big interest within the players that, again, similar to what you said, really respond to it. They're loving the content as well. So yeah, if you don't mind sharing your social media platforms, and what we'll do is we'll look to get it into the comments as well, so that people can follow and check it out too.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's the same on all platforms. So Moalifc on Instagram, TikTok, whatever you have.
Nice and easy one to remember then.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And just one point on that as well, I think, especially with the period of time that we're in as well, the unfortunate times, I think, yeah, TikTok's obviously becoming a massive thing, and I've seen that there's a lot of people going onto that wave now of TikTok. So it'll be interesting to see the sort of content and videos that are produced on there as well. So I'll definitely make sure.
I think it's going to be even bigger, but we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, definitely. I think, again, this is the thing, I think, especially with the stuff that you do and the content you produce, obviously some people may find it hard to film that now with certain facilities closed and things like that. But I think, especially, like I said, for the people listening and watching, and if they are going to be innovative and they are going to be creative, this is a perfect time to kind of, you know, jot down their ideas and produce a plan and a vision, really, of as to where and how they're going to get to the end goal, or, you know, closer towards that end goal as well. So yeah, I think it's definitely a good time to utilize that. But no problem. Well, Mo, massive thank you for joining us. Like I said, brilliant insight, great sort of vision as to how you can get into this area of football and the coaching industry. And like I said, what I'll do is I'll share all your content, your contacts, so then people can view your social media platforms and see what we're talking about for themselves. But like I said, massively appreciate you at the time. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it.
Thanks, David. Good to see you. And thanks for having me. I hope the fans enjoy also. And we'll meet up someday, I'm sure.
No problem at all. I hope so. I'll speak to you soon, Mo, okay?
Sure. Take care.